We're going to give it about 15 seconds to 30 seconds for people to join. All right, it's a minute now, so let's start. Hello, everyone. Hey, thanks for joining. My name is Rajat Krishnan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cloud Control. I'm here with Joanna. Joanna and I started working together about a few weeks back, about a couple of months back. And we are promoting our platform and the services. And Joanna had some questions, so I thought, why not? Let's have a webinar and have those questions answered, and so that others can benefit from that as well. So go ahead, Joanna, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Joanna. I work in Maxima as a client partner.
Joanna, you're on mute, I think.
No, I'm not. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you.
Oh, God.
Joanna, say something.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. Now I
Great.
can.
Okay. I got already, terrified that something is. Oh yeah, guys can hear me. I can see you guys here. Thank you very much.
All right.
So I will start again. My name is Joanna, and I am a client partner at Maxima. At Maxima, we are doing our best to find for our clients a perfect match in terms of people, skills, and solutions. And as Regit already mentioned, we've been working together for a few weeks now. And yes, indeed, I had many questions about the solution that he invented, basically, because I said, like, okay, how are we going to fix one of the biggest problems in terms of people, which means the lack of those people, lack of the people in the market. And he told me, Joanna, I'm going to show you our SRE as a service. So maybe for the beginning, you're going to tell us a little bit more about this.
Sure. Thanks, Joanna. So we provide SRE as a service on Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is definitely an enabler for SRE. So when it comes to SRE, it's one way to look at that is it is an elevated operations when it comes to IT ops, right? So when you're managing your infrastructure, managing your application in the cloud or in on-prem, SRE gives a different perspective to things. Like today, everything is software defined. So you can bring up VMs, bring up containers, bring up load balancers, everything that you need to host an application or applications and scale it. All of them can be defined through software. So SRE looks at it from a software engineer's perspective, codes everything, use the right tools, connect all of them together, and finally you get an appliance kind of view or use of the cloud, right? So you're using all these software tools and leverage the underlying APIs for the infrastructure and the different cloud providers and bring them all together with the right observability. And you elevate your ops so that your application is now kind of running in a very intelligent way by self-healing and auto-healing. And also with all the observability that you need, when something goes wrong, you have all the information in front of you to fix it as soon as possible.
Okay, cool. So now we can go a little bit farther, I believe, because you mentioned Kubernetes. So tell us something more about it and why is it so interesting?
All right. So I did prepare some slides. I'm going to share that. So what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is it's an open source project. It is second to only Linux. If you look at the activities and the contributions, what it does is it does container orchestration. So today, you want to run your workloads in containers. That's the most efficient way to run workloads in cloud, on-prem or public. So what Kubernetes does is the orchestration part of it, meaning it will manage the life cycle of a container, and routing traffic to it, and also making sure that it is running efficiently and it is scheduled properly so that you have a sufficient scalability, right? Now, Kubernetes helps you doing all that. It is an open source project. It is the orchestrator for containers.
And why is it so complex? I mean, at this, we are hearing that this is very complex, but at the same time, it's very desirable. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yes. So, as I said earlier, right? So, I have a slide for that, right? Now, so when it comes to containers, it's definitely a very lightweight. So that means you have the option to reduce wastage in cloud. So if you look at the cloud today, the most expensive part of the cloud is compute and memory, that is RAM. So in order to use those efficiently, you need a lightweight way to run it. So containers helps you do that. In addition to that, when you're running something, you want to run with the right configuration, right? So virtual machines are one way to do it. That's how we used to do so far, and still there are 99% of the world's workloads are running in virtual machines. But there is a new way to do it now. That's containers. Containers helps you manage your configuration better and run them efficiently, and it improves your time to market. So the efficiency part is the key here, because the efficiency comes from the self-managed configuration. So it does a really good job of baking all the configuration in and running it anywhere, right? Once it is built, and then the efficiency, because it's lightweight and it can run in a very so if you look at the a given landscape of servers or cores, you can run more containers within that same hardware or infrastructure than VMs. So there are several benefits of running Kubernetes containers.
Okay, you already mentioned that this is super efficient and it can simply be less time consuming, but this is also the stage where is the biggest cost cutting, or are there any other stages where we can, think about reducing the costs?
Yes. So when it comes to cost cutting, right? So there are multiple things we want to consider, right? So containers definitely makes it efficient, but you still need to have the right tools, right? So the goal is to ensure that you have the right tools to manage the containers. So Kubernetes does one part of it. That is, once you create a container image and create a manifest for Kubernetes and let it run, that the life cycle of the containers are taken care of. But creating a container image and having the right configuration in, you need to find tools to do that, right? So definitely, there is more efficiency you can build by creating those or getting the right tools in place, right? So that's another way to save money. So when it comes to compute, definitely it runs better. But when it comes to the building and managing part of it, you need the right tools, and there also you can save a lot of time and effort.
And also, can you tell me how many resources are being used actually on VMs right now comparing to containers?
Yeah, it's that's a good question. So when we looked at our current customer pool, right, and what we realized is that when it comes to, say, let's say somebody has 100 cores. So what is happening today is, when it comes to efficiency, the number of cores used by VMs are locked within VMs. For example, let's say 100 cores are divided across 10 VMs. and each of them have 10 cores. What we have seen is they might be only using 2 cores in each one of them or 3 cores. So that means you have about 70% wastage in each VM. Now, when it comes to moving them to containers and Kubernetes, you can actually reduce that. The way Kubernetes does that is Kubernetes takes all that core, create a single pool, and then puts containers inside them, and then moves the containers around and spread it around, so that now you can have, instead of 100, and if you're only using 3 cores in each one of them, you can reduce the wastage to 50% to 60%. That means instead of 100, you can get 50, allocate them to all as a pool through using Kubernetes to all your workloads. And whenever you need additional cores, Kubernetes can automatically allocate more from the cloud and consume it, and then give it away back. Now, this can be done very efficiently using containers. That's one of the reasons why Kubernetes is becoming very popular.
Okay, but is it safe comparing to a different type solutions?
It is definitely safe. You have to use the right configuration, of course, right? It's definitely a Swiss Army knife. It's the right way and wrong way to use it. So the idea is to make sure that you get the right manifest in place, you have the right tools in place to build the containers and deploy them.
Okay. So you also mentioned during my onboarding session with you that this is a multi-cloud solution. So please tell us something more about this.
So Kubernetes definitely enables you to to leverage multi-cloud, to be a multi-cloud deployment model, to be a multi-cloud company, right? So, for example, I'll give you a couple of use cases that we came across within our customers, right? So there are various reasons you want to be multi-cloud. One of them could be like just cost, right? So for your particular application, let's say Azure is cheaper than AWS, Kubernetes lets you achieve that cost cutting by creating your container model. You're creating your containers and managing it across multiple cloud without actually coding specifically for a cloud. So the Kubernetes enables you to do that, right? That's number one. Number two, when it comes to features of a cloud, like for example, let's say you want to use the language processing in Google. They're really good at that versus say what Azure is offering. And again, for your particular application. Now you have the ability to run your language processing microservices, for example, or your components in Google, closer to the Google services. So that also is another advantage when you're leveraging Kubernetes.
Okay, and you said another advantage, but what is the biggest advantage in your opinion?
So the biggest advantage is the multi-cloud is good, but the cost cutting is the most, because the efficiency, as I said earlier, right, going from 100 core to a 50 core, right? So that efficiency, that's where you see the most savings. The other part is the people, right? When it comes to the number of people managing your current pipeline or automation or cloud itself and the cloud operations, you have the opportunity to reduce that by using the right tools with Kubernetes.
Okay. And how about the return on investment? How fast you can see that?
Okay, good question. So let me. So this is one way to leverage Kubernetes. I put together kind of a diagram on, hey, what do you need to build? What is the kind of investment you need to put together, right? So you definitely need the Kubernetes itself running somewhere. There are managed services out there like EKS, AKS, and GKE. You can leverage that. But there are options to run Kubernetes in VMs as well. So that's another option, right? Now, if you look at this diagram, on the right-hand side, you have the providers running EKS or AKS or GKE. That gets you the Kubernetes platform itself. Now, on the left-hand side, you have developers and operations. Now, connecting these two groups, like the developers and operations, and then having them consume the Kubernetes workloads, you need some tools in between. So again, Kubernetes works based on manifests. So you need to create manifests, and you also need to create container images. So in order to do that, you need some tools. So you need to build an automation pipeline from your Git repository to the Kubernetes in order to achieve full automation. That means your goal should be to use Kubernetes like an appliance, irrespective of who's providing the Kubernetes. You want an automation pipeline that sits between your team and the infrastructure, which is Kubernetes, right? So you build that automation pipeline. Once you build that automation pipeline, it will look like an appliance to you. You go to Git, you commit your changes, merge your changes, and let the automation take it from there and deploy it into Kubernetes, right? Now,
Yeah.
when you build that automation, one important thing is you really want to close that loop. You want to know, hey, what is happening to your workload at runtime? So you want to make sure that you have sufficient observability built in so that your developers and operations can actually see what is going on inside Kubernetes. Kubernetes does provide some native observability, but that is not sufficient. You have to bring in additional tools like Prometheus, Grafana, and other data collection agents so that you can have the observability that you need.
And the solution that we are providing is fixing all the challenges, yes, with Kubernetes, and we are giving,
Yes,
yes.
that is right. So we have, I have a slide here. So this is our reference implementation. So on the right-hand side, you can see different Kubernetes clusters. You have dev, QA, production. It could be running in multiple cloud or in a single cloud. And on the left-hand side, you have different group of people involved, right? Now, the goal is to automate everything in between. So the idea is to build a pipeline. So we have a pipeline that we built for customers. We use this for our implementations. So the way we take care of the flow is that, so we have a separate group of engineers as part of our SRE team. They build and manage the container images and the base, what they call as base images. So these base images are then consumed by the development team by means of a manifest. They put the manifest along with their source within their Git repositories. They make a commit. That commit flows into the pipeline, and that pipeline has a GitOps engine which will take that manifest, build the container image, then uses a deployment manager to create the manifest to deploy it to Kubernetes, right? Now, as it's doing this, you want to make sure that all the observability is in place. So you can see, hey, when the build is happening in GitOps engine, you want to know what's going on. All that should be logged and it should be visible through a dashboard. Number two, where after the build is done, you now have a manifest created by the deployment manager. You want to be able to see that as well. So that should be logged, again, for troubleshooting and audit purposes. Then at runtime, once it is deployed, so now the manifest is created, the workload is running in cloud or in Kubernetes. You want to make sure that you can see the performance metrics. So you want to make sure that, hey, it is supposed to run efficiently. Is it, right? So you want to know what kind of resource it's using. And next, you also want to make sure that all the logs are collected and is visible at one place, right? So when it comes to that pipeline, you want to make sure that, there is a GitOps engine that is building the images. Number two, a deployment manager that creates the manifest required for Kubernetes. And number three, you need observability in terms of performance. And number four, observability in terms of logs. Now, if you put all of them in a single dashboard, your developers and operations life becomes much easier. And then you'll be able to use Kubernetes like an appliance.
Okay, and how the base images are getting created?
The images.
Yes.
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
How the base images are being created?
Yeah.
Are
Okay.
they with a tracker or a kind of a tool?
Yeah, it's a good question. See, base image is actually a challenge. So I think I have a slide in the next page. So if you look at the, previous page.
Yeah.
So key challenges, right? One of the challenges is to create that base image, right? So, the source of an image is key. Like let's say you're running Postgres with say Node.js and say Redis. Base images are base images provided by the open source vendor, the open source community. They push the base images to a central repository, and those are generic. Most of them have very generic configuration, might not be suitable for you, might not have the right security posture. So your pipeline's job is to take that, harden it in terms of configuration and removing all the unnecessary things, because When the open source community or the vendor puts the image together, they might have additional stuff in there that you might not need. So you need to strip down, harden the image, harden the configuration as part of the pipeline. And you want to automate that. The reason is because every time the community releases a new version of the base image, you want to be able to push a button and then repeat the deployment with the new version. So it's important to take care of that base image hardening as part of your automated pipeline. Now, to answer your question, it does come from the outside world. When you look at a business, most businesses don't have the base images. They take the base image from the community of from an open source project or from a vendor. Then they are responsible to harden it and push it to the Kubernetes cluster.
Understood. And now you are very comfortable with Kubernetes, but when you started your journey with it, what would you like to know back then about the Kubernetes?
So Kubernetes on paper looks awesome, right? Now, and one challenge that we ran into was the Kubernetes is a moving target because the community is very active. They are releasing one release every quarter. That means every 3 months you're getting a new version, right?
Okay.
So a lot of our effort went into our deployment manager to take care of those version changes, because they might drop some APIs, they might bring in new APIs. They're all good. There are good reasons for them to do that, right? Because it's a new evolving platform. Now, when I look back, that's where we kind of underestimated the effort in terms of how to catch up with the moving target, right? So remember, this is a very complex technology. I think it's like 30,000 plus contributors contributing.
Wow.
Amazing platform. I'm a big fan, but that it also comes with some challenges, right? Because it is a moving target. It is giving you all these features, and everything is API driven. So that means you have to be compatible with every version that they're releasing, and we need to catch up. So that is definitely one of the biggest challenge, and we really underestimated that.
Of course, I understand. And you said also that it's a moving target. So all the companies that are using this technology must be up to date. And what kind of companies rely on Kubernetes?
In our current customer pool, right, and also if you look at our pipeline of customers that we are talking to, startups, they go straight to Kubernetes because they immediately see benefits, and that could be in different verticals. It is a multi-vertical solution. It can be used by any company. So we have seen enterprise customers, like we have a healthcare customer. They went from twice a year to production to twice a month to production in using Kubernetes, which is huge for them, right? So that means you really can improve your time to market, right? And I do have a slide for that. I just want to touch on that a little bit. So these are the three major things that we see when we do a Kubernetes implementation. And this is true. Once you implement it, you can definitely see this in the implementation. Increasing the agility, right? Because Kubernetes does the heavy lifting in terms of orchestrating containers. As long as we create a pipeline to get the container image built and create the manifest and push that to Kubernetes, it does a really good job of managing that, which means once that automation is in place, you can definitely increase the agility, which means your developer productivity is going up. And developers don't have to always communicate with the DevOps team or the CloudOps team, because they can simply use Git, merge their changes into a designated branch that gets deployed. Now, some of these deployments can be seconds. So I can push out a new version or a new bug fix. From a deployment standpoint, it could be done within seconds, which is huge, right? And number two, when you're using Kubernetes, some of the challenges that as part of the upgrade or a deployment is taken care of by Kubernetes, right? Like load, ingress, routing. So let's say you have a new version, and now when the new version of containers come in, you want to make sure that the traffic is routed to the new containers. so that the new bug fix or enhancement can be consumed by the users. Kubernetes does a really good job of doing that, right? So you don't have to worry about any of that. So developers can simply focus on creating more value to their customers, add, fix bugs, add features, and just push a button. Kubernetes takes care of it as long as you have a pipeline in between that is connecting your source to Kubernetes.
Of
Now,
course.
second and third, and I can reducing the risk, right? Because Kubernetes runs in a very secure way within its own firewall. It has its own networking built in. So you have to take extra steps to expose things. So which means by default everything runs within a firewall, and you just enable the secure ports so that it can get incoming traffic. In addition to that, because it's based on a pipeline, again, building a pipeline is very key. You can reduce the risk by hardening the images automatically, and Kubernetes lets you do that. It's an enabler for that, right? And reducing cost, of course, increasing agility, developers efficiency, those are all good. But at the same time, the resource utilization, wastage can be reduced. I've seen within our customers the wastage reduced by at least 70%.
Okay. Among many questions that are appearing, actually, I saw one very important, and I believe we should skip to that. Do you guys provide any deep dive training sessions for Kubernetes?
Yes, we do training sessions. We do also have workshops. So please do contact us, and we have constant, we regularly do webinars and workshops where you can actually start deploying into Kubernetes within minutes, and we can take you through that process.
That's great. And also, I believe it's worth mentioning that we are happy to invite you for a demo session if you would like to join and learn more about our solutions. Yes?
That's right. So let me take you to the last page. I have a QR code here. So if you scan this QR code, it will take you to a form where you can actually fill in, and then we can show you a demo, or we can also sign you up for one of the workshops.
So here you can basically get in touch with me or Regit. You can also reach out to us on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And and we are happy to help to schedule such a meeting. And right now, I'd like to ask if there are some. There are many questions. If we will not address all the questions that appear right now, I am definitely going to get back to you via LinkedIn or email or somehow. No worries. But yeah, I can see that. Wait a second, Rajesh.
Yeah.
And what about compliance, security challenges about generic images?
Yes. So generic images are a pain when it comes to compliance, unless you have that pipeline built in to harden. So one of the things that we have implemented for our customers is that automated pipeline with the capability to do a couple of things. Number one, it will harden the image for them. So let me go to that slide so we can see. So it hardens the image as part of the GitOps engine's job to take the base image as part of the build process, hardens the image. So that means it will have the right configuration, and it will have the right base image artifacts. Like, for example, if there are things that are not necessary, we strip them out, right? And then next step is to ensure that the final image is put through a scan, right? So most of the cloud providers in their image repository, they have scanners. You could enable that. That's one thing you can do. Number two, you can also subscribe to other services like Sneak, as an example, Veracode. You can use them to scan the images, and that will also, and then you look at the result and fix the issues either in the pipeline or in the code. And your pipeline and the code should be capable of doing that. Number three, when it comes to traceability, right? You want to know that what changes went in, what version of the base image was used for a particular deployment. Trace all that so that when you have an issue, you can actually go back and look at what version was used. For example, when a vulnerability is pushed out, or when you come across a vulnerability that is published, you can now go back and look at how many of your applications are running that image with that vulnerability, so that you can go and fix them.
And another question, what is the first investment companies have to make while adopting Kubernetes?
So, of course, the most important thing is to ensure that you have a way to connect the Git with the Kubernetes installation, right? So Kubernetes can come from EKS, AKS, or GKE. That is Amazon, Azure, or Google provided Kubernetes. But don't try to directly get into that and start deploying manually. That gets you in a lot of trouble. It will get you going, but you need a lot of effort to train somebody to get to that point where they can actually efficiently manage that. So the best thing to do is put upfront investment in a pipeline that will take your source code, that is your assets, your IP, from your Git repository, and automatically build the image, scan it, and then create the manifest, fully automated, so that your developers can push a button. They don't have to learn Kubernetes. Ideally, they should not be even learning containerization. All that should be taken care of by your pipeline. So that initial investment you should make, and definitely, we can help. Then that's what we do for customers. You can reach out to me or Joanna, and we can, show you give you some pointers to get that pipeline done.
You can also reach out to us if you have suggestions about future webinars, or you want to discuss something, you don't agree with something, you can always reach out to us. So don't worry, feel free, don't be afraid. I see no further questions appearing. So yeah, once again, coming back to this page, please use this QR code to schedule a demo session. This will be an individual demo session just for you, your company. We're gonna solve your problems and answer your questions. It's not gonna be like a webinar, but this is going to be dedicated for you. So feel free to use it because it's free as well. So yeah, we hope to see you in our calendars quite soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joanna. Thanks,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for joining. See you during the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.